It was a quiet evening, the kind of night where love feels safe and eternal. His phone buzzed on the table, just once. A simple notification. My fingers hesitated, but curiosity won. What I saw shattered me not just as his lover, but as the woman who thought she knew his soul. Welcome to the Untold Love, where real emotions breathe in every story. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Let's begin. I still remember the first time I met him. It wasn't anything dramatic, no rain-soaked encounters, no accidental falls like in the movies. It was simple. He walked into the room, smiled at me, and somehow, in that one smile, my heart whispered, "This is him." It felt like the universe had conspired to place him in front of me at the exact moment I was ready to believe in love again. He had this way of making everything around him fade, as though the noise of the world grew quieter whenever he was near. His laughter, it wasn't just sound, it was light. And when his eyes met mine, it wasn't just eye contact, it was connection. A pull, a magnetic force that made me want to know everything about him, his fears, his dreams, his secrets, his scars. In the early days, love bloomed effortlessly. Late-night calls that stretched until dawn, where silence between us was never uncomfortable, was comforting. The kind of silence where hearts spoke louder than words. We shared coffee dates that turned into hours of conversation, walks under streetlights that felt like scenes from a movie, and promises whispered like prayers. We'll always be together. He remembered the little things, how I liked my tea, the way I hated the sound of ticking clocks, the way my hands always turned cold. He held them every time, as if his warmth was enough to protect me from the world. And maybe, back then, it was people say you just know when you've found the right one? And I thought I knew. Every day with him felt like discovering a new part of myself, a better part, a happier part. I called him my safe place, my home, my forever. Looking back now, I wonder if love makes us blind, or if I chose to close my eyes because I was so desperate to believe. At that time, I didn't see flaws. I didn't see red flags. I only saw the man I thought was my soulmate. The man I thought would never let me break. But sometimes, the very beginning of forever is also the beginning of heartbreak. Our love didn't just stay in the present. It reached forward into the future. We weren't only living moments, we were building dreams. I remember how easily we slipped into conversations about someday we'd have our own little apartment with walls painted in soft colors. Someday we'd adopt a dog. Someday we'd wake up next to each other without having to say goodbye. He painted pictures of our life together so vividly that I could see them, almost touch them. He would talk about our wedding as though it was already written in the stars. He wanted a small ceremony by the sea, with close friends and family. Nothing too grand. I wanted fairy lights and music, the kind that lingers in the heart, long after the night ends. We laughed, agreeing that we'd find a way to blend both dreams into one. It wasn't just about marriage, it was about everything in between. He told me he wanted children, and I found myself smiling at the thought of little feet running around. Laughter echoing through a home we would build together. We would talk about names, argue playfully about them, then end up agreeing that whatever we chose would be perfect because it would be ours. He supported my ambitions, the parts of me that wanted to grow, to achieve. He reminded me constantly that love wasn't about holding each other back but lifting each other higher. And the first, in return, became his biggest cheerleader, celebrating his victories and reminding him of his worth on days he doubted himself. In those moments, love wasn't a feeling, it was a foundation. I trusted it. I trusted him. I trusted us. It felt like the universe had finally given me the gift I had always longed for, not just a partner, but a soulmate. I didn't question the way he looked at me, as if I was his world. I didn't question the promises he made, because his voice carried a conviction that wrapped around me like a blanket on a cold night. To me, we weren't just two people in love. We were a destiny written before we even knew how to read it. If only I had known that sometimes, even the most beautiful dreams can crumble with a single truth. For a long time, I lived in the illusion that nothing could go wrong between us. Our love felt invincible, untouchable, like it had been written by fate itself. But slowly, quietly, the cracks began to appear. At first, it was small things, almost unnoticeable. The late replies to my messages, the way his phone seemed to always be face down on the table, or how he would step out of the room to take certain calls. I brushed it off as stress, work, or maybe just him needing space. Love makes you trust, and I trusted blindly. Then came the silences. The kind that weren't warm anymore, but heavy, uncomfortable. Conversations that used to flow endlessly began to shorten into one-word answers. I would ask if he was okay, and he would smile faintly, saying he was just tired. But the truth was, it wasn't tiredness, it was distance. I told myself I was overthinking. I told myself real love has rough patches. I convinced myself that every relationship has ups and downs, and this was just ours. Yet, deep down, a quiet unease began to grow in me. The man who once shared everything, his fears, his dreams, his thoughts, was slowly building walls I couldn't climb. There were nights I lay awake beside him, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I was losing him. I'd reach for his hand, and he'd hold it, but it didn't feel the same. It felt distracted, like his mind was elsewhere, like his heart was wandering to a place I couldn't follow. I still loved him with everything I had. So, I kept holding on, believing that if I loved harder, if I gave more, if I stayed patient, the cracks would disappear, and we'd go back to being us. But the truth is, sometimes love doesn't fade suddenly. Sometimes it slips away quietly, in stolen glances, in half-kept promises, in secrets hidden behind a locked screen. And it was that very screen, his phone, that held the answers I wasn't ready to face. The answers that would shatter everything I thought I knew about him, about us, about love itself. It happened on an ordinary evening, the kind of evening where nothing felt unusual, nothing hinted at the storm waiting to break. We had just returned from dinner. He left his phone on the couch while stepping into the shower, something he rarely did. Normally, that device never left his side, as though it carried a world I wasn't supposed to see. At first, I didn't even think about it. I sat there, absent-mindedly scrolling through my own screen, but my eyes kept drifting to his phone, lying there, unlocked. A notification lit up the screen, her name, not mine, not family, someone I didn't recognize. My heart skipped, but I told myself it could be harmless. Maybe a colleague, maybe a friend. But then another message appeared, and this time, it wasn't just harmless. Words of affection. Words he once used for me. My hands trembled as I picked it up, my breath shallow, my pulse racing. I didn't want to look, but I couldn't stop myself. And there it was, messages filled with laughter, secrets, plans. Conversations dripping with intimacy, the kind that belonged to us. Once upon a time. Each line I read was like a dagger. He wasn't just sharing his life with me, he was sharing it with her. The late replies, the silences, the distance, it all made sense now. The walls he built weren't just walls. They were hiding someone else inside them. I remember sitting there frozen, staring at words that blurred through the flood of my tears. The man I thought was my forever, my soulmate, had been living a double story. And in that moment, the foundation of trust I had built so carefully crumbled beneath me. When he came out of the shower, smiling casually, I couldn't even find the strength to speak. I just looked at him, wondering how easily he could smile. How effortlessly he could pretend, while my world had just collapsed at his feet. That phone didn't just show me messages. It showed me the truth I never wanted to see. And once you see the truth, you can never unsee it. That night, silence weighed heavier than any words could. I sat on the edge of the bed, my mind replaying every message, every lie, every stolen moment that was never mine. When he walked in, still toweling his hair, I couldn't hold it inside anymore. Who is she? The words slipped out, trembling, fragile, yet sharp enough to pierce the air between us. His smile faltered. His eyes darted to his phone, then back at me. In that single pause, I had my answer. He didn't need to speak, the guilt already lived in his silence, but he did speak. Stumbling over excuses, weaving explanations I couldn't believe. It's not what you think. You're overreacting. She's just a friend. His voice shook, his lies clumsy, but each one sliced deeper than the truth itself. I wanted to scream, to cry, to throw the phone at him, and demand why. Why wasn't I enough? Why did he promise me forever while giving pieces of himself to someone else? But the words tangled inside me, suffocated by heartbreak. Instead, tears betrayed me, spilling down my face. I wasn't the angry storm I thought I'd be, I was the quiet wreckage after it. My chest ached, my soul cracked, and all I could whisper was, "How could you?" For a moment, I thought I saw regret in his eyes, but it wasn't enough. Regret doesn't undo betrayal. Regret doesn't erase the nights I stayed awake, believing his lies, defending him in my heart, when he wasn't even defending me. The distance I had felt for weeks now stood between us like an unbreakable wall. We weren't two lovers anymore, we were strangers staring at the ruins of what used to be love. He reached out to touch my hand, but I pulled away. That small gesture carried a finality I didn't plan, yet I knew it was the beginning of the end. The man I thought was my soulmate was standing in front of me, but he felt farther than ever before. And in that moment, I realized something painful. Sometimes love doesn't end with a goodbye. Sometimes it ends with silence, with unanswered questions, with promises broken so quietly they echo louder than words. The days after that night blurred together, like a half-remembered dream. I would wake up with swollen eyes, the imprint of betrayal still heavy in my chest. Every corner of our home reminded me of the love we had shared, or at least, the love I believed in. His laughter still echoed in the walls, his promises still whispered in the silence, and yet, none of it felt real anymore. He tried to explain. He tried to say it was a mistake, that it didn't mean anything, that I was still the one he loved. But the problem with broken trust is that no matter how many words you hear, they all sound hollow. His "I love you" felt like a sentence stripped of meaning, a phrase he could hand out as easily as lies. I kept asking myself, should I fight for this? Should I hold on to the man I thought was my forever? Or should I let go of the version of him that had only ever lived in my imagination? The answer didn't come easily. Love makes fools of us all, and the heart clings even when the mind knows better. But late one night, as I sat staring at the ceiling in darkness, I realized something. Love is not meant to feel like begging. Love is not meant to feel like chasing shadows or stitching together pieces that someone else chose to shatter. Love at its purest is honesty, and I no longer had that. The hardest part wasn't leaving him. The hardest part was leaving behind the dream we had built together. The future I thought was certain. The story I thought would be ours forever. Letting go felt like tearing myself apart, but I knew staying would destroy me even more slowly. So, I chose myself. I chose to step away, even as my heart screamed to stay. I walked out not because I stopped loving him, but because I finally learned to love myself enough to let go of what was no longer mine. Sometimes, letting go is not weakness, it is survival. It has been months since that night, and yet sometimes, in the quiet hours, I still hear the echo of his voice, still feel the ghost of his presence. Healing isn't instant, it's not a clean break or a sudden freedom. It's slow, messy, and often painful, but it is happening. There are mornings now when I wake up and the first thought in my mind isn't him. There are evenings when I laugh with friends and realize that my smile isn't forced anymore. The ache is still there, yes, but it no longer controls me. I am learning that heartbreak does not mean the end of love, it means the beginning of love for yourself. I used to think he was my soulmate, the other half of my soul, the person destiny had written for me. But the truth is, soulmates don't betray you. Soulmates don't make you question your worth. Maybe he was a lesson, not a forever. Maybe his role in my life was to teach me what I should never again accept, and to remind me that even in love, I deserve honesty, loyalty, and respect. One day, someone will hold my heart and never let it slip through their hands. But until then, I am learning to be whole on my own. So if you're listening to this, and you too have been broken by someone you trusted, remember this: you are not unlovable, you are not weak, and you are not alone. Sometimes the greatest strength is walking away from what you thought you needed, and realizing you've had everything within you all along. Because healing isn't forgetting, it's choosing yourself, even after being broken. Thank you for listening to my story. If it touched even a small part of your heart, then I know my pain has found meaning. Love can be beautiful, but it can also break us in ways we never expect. And yet, every broken piece carries the power to rebuild us stronger than before. This channel, The Untold Love, is a place where stories of the heart live, not just mine, but reflections of so many lives, so many silent battles of love, heartbreak, and healing. If my words resonated with you, please take a moment to subscribe, like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your voice matters, and sometimes, sharing what's inside can be the first step toward healing. And don't go too far, because in the next story, I will take you on another journey of love and heartbreak. A story about promises made under the stars, and the silence that followed when dawn arrived. Until then, remember, sometimes endings are not failures, they are beginnings in disguise.